There was an America where neighbors helped each other without asking what political party they belonged to, where children walked to school alone and came home when the streetlights turned on, where a handshake meant something and families ate dinner together every night. These are 8 memories from the 1960s, and if anyone lived through them, they'll know exactly what we've lost. July 20th, 1969, the night America went to the moon. Families across the country gathered around their television sets, those big console TVs that dominated living rooms, to watch Neil Armstrong take humanity's first steps on another world. Walter Cronkite guided the nation through every moment, his voice steady and familiar as that grainy footage showed the impossible becoming possible. This was the same trusted anchor who had reported Kennedy's assassination, now witnessing America's greatest triumph. When Armstrong announced, "The Eagle has landed," living rooms erupted in cheers. When he stepped onto the lunar surface with those famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," every American watching felt that moment belonged to them. Then came the flag ceremony, Armstrong and Aldrin planting Old Glory in the moon dust. The next morning, classrooms filled with children who had all witnessed the same historic moment. Teachers explained how Americans had accomplished the impossible. Students drew pictures of astronauts and rockets. Everyone understood they lived in a country that could lead the world when it set its mind to something great. America taught its children to dream of greatness then. The space program wasn't just science, it was proof that free people could achieve anything when they worked together toward a common goal. Now those same classrooms teach children that America was built on oppression. The flag that once united a nation in pride is called a symbol of hate. Children learn to apologize for their country instead of believing in its potential. The families who witnessed American greatness together had weekend rituals that created different kinds of shared memories. Saturday night meant the drive-in theater. $2 got the whole family inside for an evening that indoor theaters couldn't match. Families could talk during movies, children could wear pajamas, and parents could bring their own food without breaking any rules. Drive-ins had spread across America during the post-war boom, reaching over 4,000 locations by the early 1960s. They represented everything optimistic about American life: automobile culture, family entertainment, and summer nights under the stars. The experience started with finding a good parking spot facing the massive outdoor screen, then hanging the metal speaker on the car window. The sound was scratchy, but it worked. Families would arrive before sunset, children already in their pajamas, parents with coolers full of homemade food. The concession stand served real food made fresh, hamburgers grilled to order, French fries cut from actual potatoes, popcorn popped in real butter. Everything tasted better because it was real, prepared by people who took pride in their work. The smell of cooking meat drifted across rows of cars filled with families. During intermission, children would run between cars meeting other kids, while parents chatted with neighbors. Car doors stayed unlocked because nobody worried about theft. Communities still policed themselves. The playground equipment beneath the screen came alive as families turned movie night into complete entertainment. Drive-ins offered double features, 4 hours of entertainment for one low price. Station wagons became mobile living rooms where children might fall asleep during the second movie, carried to bed by parents who remembered when entertainment brought families together. When drive-ins died, replaced by shopping malls and multiplex theaters, they took something irreplaceable with them. Now, families pay $50 to sit in sterile theaters eating processed food, while Hollywood lectures them about everything wrong with America. The land where families once gathered under stars became parking lots for chain stores selling products made overseas. Even daily routines connected families to their neighborhoods in ways that seem impossible today. Every morning before dawn, the milkman completed his route through residential neighborhoods. He knew every family on his route, which houses needed early delivery because someone worked the morning shift, which families ordered extra on Sundays for pancake breakfast, which elderly customers might need help during bad weather. This wasn't some anonymous driver racing to meet corporate quotas. This was a neighbor serving neighbors, employed by local dairies that connected families directly to farms just outside town. His truck moved quietly through sleeping streets, glass bottles clinking softly in wire carriers. Glass bottles sat on front porches with handwritten notes and exact change tucked inside. 2 quarts today, please, and a dozen eggs. Nobody worried about theft because neighbors watched out for each other. The bottles were thick, heavy containers designed to survive countless washings and years of daily use. The milk itself was different, fresh from local dairy farms, with cream that rose naturally to the top. When mothers poured that cream into coffee, they knew exactly where their family's food came from. This wasn't the processed liquid that travels hundreds of miles from factory farms today. The milkman noticed things that mattered. When newspapers started piling up, he'd mention it to neighbors who might check on the family. He knew which houses had new babies needing extra milk for formula. During winter storms, he'd shovel elderly customers' walkways because that's what people did in communities that functioned properly. Home delivery died when supermarkets promised cheaper prices and one-stop shopping convenience. Families traded personal service for lower costs, and with it went the daily connection between neighbors that made neighborhoods feel safe and connected. The trust system that allowed people to leave money and notes for strangers disappeared along with the milk trucks. Personal relationships were replaced by anonymous corporate transactions that treated customers as statistics rather than neighbors. Now milk comes from industrial facilities where cows never see sunlight, pumped with hormones and chemicals, processed until it barely resembles real food. The glass bottles are gone, replaced by plastic containers that fill landfills. This sense of community connection extended to simple evening rituals that gave rhythm and meaning to family life. Summer evenings had their own rhythm in American neighborhoods. After dinner, families moved to front porches where fathers would tune portable radios to catch the hometown team. Legendary announcers like Vin Scully and Red Barber painted word pictures that made listeners see every pitch more clearly than television ever could. The front porch served as more than outdoor seating. It was the family's window to the street, the community's informal communication network. These weren't isolated entertainment spaces, but gathering points where private family life met public neighborhood interaction. Children learned patience by following games that unfolded slowly over hours, developing attention spans that television would later destroy. Radio baseball required imagination and the ability to follow stories without constant visual stimulation. They could envision Mickey Mantle's swing or Willie Mays' catches better than any camera could capture. Up and down residential streets, other families were tuned to the same broadcast. When the home team scored, cheers would echo from porch to porch as neighbors shared the excitement. The whole neighborhood participated in the same experience, creating bonds that made communities safe and connected. Neighbors walking by would stop to ask about the score or discuss a controversial call. Children played in front yards while parents kept watch from porch chairs. Everyone knew everyone and looked out for each other's children. This was where community life happened naturally, without formal organization or social media platforms. Fathers would keep detailed scorecards, teaching children traditional methods of tracking each play. Mothers would bring out glasses of fresh lemonade or iced tea, creating traditions that made hot summer nights bearable while strengthening family bonds through shared ritual. Air conditioning killed the front porch culture. Families retreated indoors during hot evenings, stopped connecting with neighbors, and lost the community bonds that made neighborhoods work properly. Climate control was gained, but community soul was lost. The informal neighborhood watch provided by families sitting on porches disappeared, replaced by security systems and surveillance cameras that monitor strangers rather than building relationships with neighbors. When families did venture out together for special occasions, simple pleasures remained affordable for working people. Local diners in 1962 served pot roast dinners with all the fixings for $1.15. A hamburger, fries, and Coke cost 65 cents. A teenager earning 75 cents an hour pumping gas could take his girlfriend to dinner and a movie without going into debt or asking parents for money. These weren't corporate chain restaurants with standardized menus shipped from distant warehouses. Each establishment reflected its owner's personality and deep connections to the community. The local diner was known for pot roast that fell apart on the fork. The family cafe drew customers from neighboring towns for fresh-baked pies. The corner grill specialized in thick steaks cut by hand each morning. Waitresses knew regular customers by name, remembered how they liked their coffee, and kept cups full without being asked. This was service built on relationships rather than corporate training manuals. The woman behind the counter had worked there for years, knew the families, asked about the children, remembered anniversaries and birthdays. Food was prepared from scratch in restaurant kitchens by cooks who took personal pride in their work. Mashed potatoes came from real potatoes peeled and boiled each morning, not reconstituted from industrial flakes. Vegetables arrived fresh from local farms within miles of town. Meat was cooked to order, not preformed and reheated under heat lamps. Sunday dinner at family restaurants brought multiple generations together for elaborate meals that lasted hours and cost less than today's fast food. Grandparents could afford to treat their entire extended family without checking bank balances first. These weekly gatherings strengthened family bonds while supporting local businesses that understood their role in community life. Working families could eat out regularly because restaurants priced meals for working people, not wealthy tourists. Dining out was normal family activity, not luxury reserved for special occasions. The economics worked because labor costs were reasonable, ingredients were local, and profit margins were modest rather than maximized. Restaurant owners lived in the same communities they served and understood that success depended on treating neighbors fairly rather than extracting maximum profit from every transaction. Now restaurant meals require credit cards and careful budgeting. Food is processed chemicals served by workers who can't afford to eat where they work. Families have been priced out of eating together, so they've stopped eating together. The weekly tradition that once brought generations together has been destroyed by an economy that values corporate profits over community life. The same respect for standards and occasions that made dining out special extended to how people presented themselves in all aspects of daily life. People dressed with dignity because dignity mattered. Men wore pressed slacks and collared shirts to run errands. Women styled their hair and wore dresses to go shopping. Children learned that appearance reflected respect for themselves and their community. This wasn't about money. Most families owned few clothes but cared for what they had. Everything was pressed, polished, maintained because people took pride in their presentation. How someone dressed said something about their character, their values, their respect for others. Going downtown meant something then. Department stores, banks, restaurants, churches were important places deserving of respect. People understood that standards weren't oppression, they were the foundation of civilized society. When everyone maintained standards, everyone benefited from a more dignified world. Children learned that different occasions required different presentation. School clothes, play clothes, church clothes, special occasions, each had its place and purpose. This taught respect, self-discipline, and understanding that how we present ourselves affects how we treat each other. Compare this to today's world where people wear pajamas to stores, where professional dress codes are considered discriminatory, where looking like a slob is defended as personal freedom. When appearance standards disappeared, other standards followed. When nothing was special enough to dress for, nothing felt special anymore. The decline of dress reflected deeper decay. People stopped caring how they looked because they stopped caring about anything beyond their immediate comfort. Self-respect died, and with it, respect for others, for institutions, for the idea that some things deserve our best effort. This same reverence for special occasions shaped how families approached their most cherished traditions. Once each year, CBS broadcast The Wizard of Oz, and every American family planned their evening around it. Homework finished early, dinner cleared quickly, everyone gathering in the living room for Dorothy's journey to magical lands. This was appointment television that brought families together instead of driving them apart. Children counted days until Oz night like Christmas morning. Parents prepared special snacks, created cozy viewing areas, made the evening feel magical. The transition from sepia Kansas to Technicolor Oz took breath away, even for children who had seen it dozens of times. Commercial breaks meant family discussion, not bathroom runs or phone checking. Parents explained Depression-era references, shared memories of seeing the film in theaters, created connections between generations. The movie wasn't just entertainment, it was family bonding time that built relationships and shared memories. Missing the broadcast meant waiting an entire year for another chance. That scarcity made it precious, worth planning around, worth protecting. Children learned that some things were special enough to wait for, important enough to gather the whole family around. Monday morning at school, everyone had watched the same thing, felt the same emotions, could discuss Dorothy's adventure together. Shared cultural experiences connected Americans across the entire country, creating common ground that transcended differences. Now children watch whatever they want, whenever they want, on individual devices. Nothing feels special because everything is available instantly. Families scatter to separate screens instead of gathering around shared experiences. Entertainment divides instead of unites. The annual Oz broadcast represented something deeper, the belief that families should do things together, that some traditions were worth preserving, that shared experiences created bonds stronger than individual preferences. That world died when convenience became more important than connection. But perhaps no single moment captured the power of shared American experience more than a summer day when the entire nation witnessed history being made on television. August 28, 1963. Families gathered around those same television sets to witness Martin Luther King Jr. deliver his "I Have a Dream" speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Over 250,000 Americans had marched on Washington that day, and millions more watched from their living rooms as Dr. King painted a vision of an America where people would be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. His words echoed through neighborhoods where families, black and white, sat transfixed by the power of his message and the hope it represented. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Those words weren't divisive. They were unifying, calling America to be better than it was while still believing it could be the greatest nation on earth. The march wasn't about tearing down America, but fulfilling its promise. Dr. King stood beneath the marble gaze of Abraham Lincoln, invoking the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, calling the nation to honor its founding principles. He dreamed of an America where children of different races could play together, where justice would roll down like waters. That dream felt achievable then, because Americans still believed their country was worth perfecting. The civil rights movement succeeded because it appealed to shared values, common decency, and the nation's better angels. It brought people together instead of driving them apart. Now that same dream has been twisted into endless grievance, permanent victimhood, and racial division that tears communities apart instead of building them up. The unity Dr. King preached has been replaced by the hatred his opponents practiced. Those 7 memories aren't just nostalgia, they're evidence of what we lost when America stopped believing in itself. They're proof that life was richer when communities mattered more than profits, when families gathered instead of scattered, when people took pride in simple things done well. The America that created those memories didn't die of natural causes. It was murdered by people who convinced us that traditions were oppressive, that standards were discriminatory, that the past was shameful instead of inspiring. They told us progress meant abandoning everything that made life meaningful. Now we have convenience without connection, technology without community, progress without purpose. We gained the whole digital world and lost our souls. But those memories remain, whispering that another way of living is possible if we have the courage to remember what we lost and the determination to build it again. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. by.